Hi everyone, and welcome to topic 4. Let's have a skim through our booklet to see what pages we have and to see what sort of activities we'll be engaging in today. Here's our topic 4 booklet. So topic 4 is the last topic in module 1, and it's going to round off our foundation topics. So we're going to be learning about articulation programs, how we move up and down the steps in the program, and how we get ourselves ready to use contingencies. Contingencies might be needed if something is a bit too easy or if something is a bit too hard. And contingencies are also needed to make sure that the client is engaged and wanting to learn, wanting to listen to us and to join in the articulation program. We start to talk about engagement in topic 4, and we continue to be focusing on engagement and the behaviours that we are looking for in our clients and how we can influence our clients to feel safe and comfortable and eager to learn. And we follow that right through to topic 12. Our warm-up activity for topic 4 is to have a first look at our poster. This poster is our easy, okay, hard zones poster. Sometimes I refer to it as our learning zones. It's something we're going to look at in more detail. And again, we're going to continue to look at this from topic 4 right through to topic 12. We'll have a brief look at the topic 4 handout, which becomes the first page in our booklet. And then we'll start to make sure we're feeling comfortable with these concepts of easy, hard, or just right. In topic 4, we start to look at how we can make judgments about how a client is going and how we do that as a score out of 10 or a percentage where 10 out of 10 would equal 100%. We're going to look at a chart which will help us to see where a client might be sitting depending on what they're getting out of 10 when we present to them 10 items. It could be copying us making a sound. It could be labeling what they can see on a picture. We're going to listen to some productions of words and see if we can actually start to hear the errors and to write down when the sound is correct or when it's an error. So here on page 6, we'll be trying that activity of listing down what we can hear. We're going to look at what a blank record sheet might look like, and that will be a great resource for us to use in the future when we're preparing for an articulation program or when we're checking the progress during an articulation program. Page 8 will be our first look at contingencies to see what contingencies are and how we might start to think about them. The topic 4 booklet has a couple of extra pages. So there's some reading here for you to do around having your plan A, your contingency, your plan B, and maybe even a second contingency, your plan C. Page 10 will be the answers. So isn't it great that now we're starting to really look at the idea of putting everything we've learned together so that we can deliver an articulation program? Where's that program going to come from? It could be one that a speech pathologist is working on that's been shared with you directly from the speech pathologist. It could have been shared with you from a parent or caregiver. It might be a program that a teacher has overseen with one of their students and they've passed it on to you and asked you to implement it. Most likely the program originated from a speech pathologist and became something that the teacher was aware of, and that could be applied to multiple children or multiple clients. It might be a program that you've searched and found on the internet and you're looking for guidance on how to use the program. We don't just want to hand out programs willy-nilly and just say to someone, here, go and use this, because we can all feel disheartened if we try to deliver an articulation program that's too hard for a client. I think you'll agree that you will feel demoralised and the client will feel demoralised if you keep asking them to do things that they can't do. I wonder if you've already had that experience. Sometimes when we ask a client to do something that's at the wrong level, we get all sorts of strange reactions that end up making everybody feel awful. If you're a parent and you've tried to work on an articulation program at home, maybe a home program, and if your child didn't want to do it, you might have had to resort to bribery or punishment, or most likely you just went, you know what, we'll try it later, and then you became disheartened. You might have even become quite fearful or resentful of the program. And sometimes this is a real problem because you might not feel like going back to the speech therapy session in the future because you can actually feel a bit guilty. I tried to do that program and I couldn't, and I don't want to admit it. So this is why I have topic 4, because we need to set ourselves up for success. And there's just a couple of little tricks and tips that I can show you that really are going to make all the difference. Here's our warm-up activity, which is in the front cover of the topic 4 booklet. This is a poster I made about 4 years ago, and I did it to summarize the sorts of information that I'd been regularly giving to people over the past 28 years. That's quite a long time, isn't it? And do you know who I aimed this at? High school teachers. So this is really relevant if you're working with preschoolers, if you're working with school age, and even right through to high school. Then I'm going to say that it's also relevant for adults of any age. It's relevant for the people receiving the articulation program and those giving it. So that means it's relevant for you. So I've got the poster up on the screen now. And like I said, we're going to be referring to this on quite a regular basis now from topic 4 right through to topic 12. So I suggest that you do have a printed copy of this and that you put it up somewhere so you can get familiar with it. So the first thing we notice are the colours. Yellow for easy zone, green for the okay zone, red for the hard zone, and black for the very hard or impossible zone. Do you agree with me that those colours make sense? Yellow is meant to be warm and fuzzy and easy. And the pictures that we can see are the peace dove, the peace fingers, got the warm sun, got the cute fluffy rabbit, and we've got the person who's relaxed. Do you want to just adopt a relaxed pose? Do you think this is how you feel when something's easy? Why do we need to have an easy zone? Well, a lot of people will have low confidence, bad past experience. They'll start off on the wrong foot. And if you go, oh, come and do this program with me, they might actually be really not willing to engage at all. So if we can get someone into an easy zone, let's look at the things that it will do. It'll help them to build confidence and be willing to try. It can help to engage all students if you're working with a group where there are multiple levels of ability. We want everyone to start in the easy zone. The easy zone is defined there as 95 to 100% success rate. So another way of putting it is, we're going to ask someone to do something that we're almost certain they can do. You'll see there it says we'll move into the okay zone when we're ready. So the easy zone can be something that's very brief. We might only stay in it for a really short time, like as in seconds, but we might need to be in it for minutes. We might need to be in it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. We might need to be in the easy zone for the whole first time that we work with someone on an articulation program, or even the whole first 4 times. An easy zone generally, though, is something that we just do briefly, and it can be thought of as like a rapport building time, getting to know you sort of time, a warm-up kind of time. So the easy zone is something actually that we're all probably quite familiar with. It's what you do when you first meet someone and you smile and you say, why don't we play a game? We want to put someone at ease. That's the easy zone. You might like to think for yourself, if you're feeling a bit stressed or a bit tired and you've got to get stuff done, do you sometimes say, well, I'll make a start on the easy things? Now, not everybody does. Some people go, I'll do the hard stuff first and I'll save the easy for last. And that's an okay strategy. But when something is going to be hard for you or confronting, or you've had previous negative experience, you tend not to be quite so happy to do something. This is when we get our procrastination or our avoidance. So I think it's actually really good to say, let's start with something easy. I wonder if you're like me and you go, I need to do that report or I need to do that work, but I'll have a cup of tea first. That's easing yourself in. This is what we're talking about when we mean easy zone. For the child, it's often a game or it's doing something that we know that they can do so we can praise them. Now, the easy zone sounds lovely, but if we only ever stayed in the easy zone, we wouldn't get anything done. If having a cup of tea for you before you do your work is the easy zone, well, you can't just have cups of tea all day long. You have to get yourself ready. You have to psych yourself up. We can't stay in the easy zone all the time, obviously. If we did that, what could happen? Well, nothing would get achieved. We'd start to feel a little bit maybe disappointed in ourselves. We might get a bit bored. We might get a bit sleepy or just like disengage. So the easy zone has to be something that's timed quite well. What we want to do, as soon as we're getting the right kind of feedback or the right kind of results, we want to move into the okay zone. Can you see the little orange diamond with the arrows going in two directions? We want to go into the okay zone, but we can come back to the easy zone whenever we want. So we can go in between these two zones. Let's look at the green okay zone. What can we see? A tick? What do you think of when you see a tick? I got it right. How do you feel when you get something right? Go me. So the okay zone is where you're getting 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 right. It means you're having to try because you're occasionally getting it wrong, but you're mostly getting it right. But because you're sometimes getting it wrong, when you get it right, you do feel like go me. And there's that sense of achievement. Can you see the target and you've hit the target? The okay zone is where you know what you're aiming for and you're proud of when you get it. This is the best zone for learning and retention. The reason is you're motivated to practice at this level and you respond to encouragement at this level because you're mostly getting it right. Now, this is true for nearly all people. Occasionally, you'll meet someone who just wants it to be hard and they get it wrong, and they can be resilient and they can persist. But the majority of us, if we really can't get things right and we're just having failure over and over, we tend to tune out. But if we're in this okay zone, this green zone, we're motivated because we're getting it right nearly all of the time. And we can feel that actually we can do this. And yeah, it's a little bit hard, but I can. Actually, this is okay. And especially if someone is motivating us and someone is praising us, we're going to feel quite comfortable in this zone. This okay zone helps to build resilience for the hard zone. Now, some things in life are going to be hard, and we don't want to fall apart when something's hard. When we're helping a client, we don't want them to fall apart when something's hard. But did you know the way to build resilience to deal with things that are hard is not to just do more and more and more things that are hard? That actually is most likely going to make the person disengaged. The way to build resilience is to give opportunities for success. And in order to give opportunities for success, you need to allow your client to be successful. That means you need to let them start in the easy zone and feel that success, take them into the okay zone where they go, yep, I can, but there's a sense of achievement because every now and then it's a bit hard, and that makes it all the more special when they do get it right and they get the tick. And so the green zone is the place which we know as speech pathologists is the best learning zone. It's the best place to learn and retain. When you're in this zone, you're less likely to be troubled by negative thoughts in your head. You're less likely to become disheartened and start making excuses. This is a great zone to be in. Now let's look at the red zone, the hard zone. In this hard zone, a lot of the clients that you work with will not cope. A lot of your clients will have negative past experience. And as soon as they feel like they're in the hard zone and they're getting 3 things wrong for every 10, they're not going to cooperate. Even worse, or clients that are in the hard zone, if they're getting like 2 right out of 10 or 3 right out of 10, they are going to shut down. Do you shut down if you try to do things and you're getting nearly all of it wrong? A lot of us do. A lot of us actually avoid the hard zone and we actually disengage, we tune out. When we're in the hard zone, we are not learning and we are not retaining. Have you ever tried to learn something and it was too tricky and you went, oh, I just can't do this. I'll come back later. And when you come back later, you're like, I can't remember any of that. It's because you weren't engaged. You need to be in the okay zone to be learning and remembering. The hard zone, that's why it's called hard. Those people who think, oh, yeah, well, I learn well when it's hard, you're actually probably quite a resilient learner, or you're actually probably in the okay zone and you just haven't realized that's where you are. Really bright people, really clever people, really advanced and gifted people, they actually find themselves in the okay zone or even the easy zone most of the time because their skills are so great. People who've had to work at their speech clarity and who end up needing an articulation program, they often don't have a lot of resilience at working on their speech. These are some of the things we might see in those people if we try to push them to work on their speech. Let's look at those things down the bottom. We might see them having self-doubt. I can't do this. No, I don't want to do this. We might see nerves, nervous behavior, chewing fingernails, looking worried, looking around, backing away from you, hiding behind mum or dad. We might see refusal. No, I don't want to do that. No, I'll play the game, but no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to make that sound. No. We might see avoidance. Oh, can I play that game instead? Oh, can I go back out in the waiting room? We might see excuses. Oh, no, I don't have to do this one. No, because because I'm really tired. Yeah, I'm so tired. No, I'm thirsty. No, I can't do this because I'm thirsty. We might just see complete disengagement, running out of the room, hiding under the table, pretending to not hear you, not looking at you. And we can see bravado. I don't have to do this. I can already do it. No, I'm not saying that because I already can. This is so easy. This is crazy. This is too easy for me. Like the pictures, we might see the person that just smiles and nods. Yep, yep, I can do it. Yep. So you think, oh, great, they're fine, they're cooperative, but they've just learned how to pretend that they're okay. They might try hard and you might think they're okay, but the minute they walk out of that session, they just have a complete meltdown, or they go home and they go, I don't ever want to go back there again because actually it was really hard for them. We might have the stubborn clients like we see in the middle, arms folded, just scowling. And we might have the paper bag over the head. We might have the client that, goes and sits in the corner and just tries to be invisible. All of these things telling you that this is not working. Why would you try to help someone with an articulation program and then give them activities that put them in a hard zone that cause all these behaviors? It's not necessary. In speech pathology, we don't go into the hard zone. It's one of the reasons why speech pathology is so successful. We well and truly spend time in that yellow, easy zone, and then we spend a lot of time in the okay zone, where our clients feel good about themselves, develop a sense of achievement, they learn and retain, they respond to encouragement, and they don't fall apart when something's suddenly a bit tricky because they've built resilience through having lots of success. The black zone, the very hard or impossible zone, we just don't go there at all when we're doing an articulation program. Why would we? Failure guaranteed. We have children come in and they can't even make a sound at all, no matter how hard we try. And a good example is the k sound, like in car. Some kids cannot make k, and yet if you haven't gone through this poster and this concept, you might quite unknowingly think you're doing the right thing and go, oh, this person can't say k, I'll help them. And then you spend half an hour trying to help them to say k, like in car. If they can't even form it, you'll have half an hour where you've put them in a position of failure guaranteed. Now, I know you don't want to do that. And some of you might have actually been asked to do that before. Go and help this child with this, and you've looked at it and gone, there's no way they're going to be able to do this. Well, if you thought this is a waste of time, you were right. If you thought this might actually cause some harm, you were right. There's nothing to be gained and actually quite a lot to be lost by putting someone into a black zone. That's why I've got cobwebs, keep out, ghosts, bats, poison, scorpions, danger, and beware. Let's just avoid that zone. Why don't you take a minute now to have a look either on the screen or at your own printout and have a think about something that you have found to be easy, something that's okay for you, that you're perhaps learning at the moment and you mostly have it and you're motivated and you're sticking with it. Something that's quite hard for you that you've tried and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to avoid that. And then something that you tried once and you went, I am never doing that again. Let's have a look at page 1. And this is the handout that you have read through already. There's a fairly basic concept that we have here about word position. And I say basic because the idea of something being at the start or in the middle or at the end is fairly logical, isn't it? But there are a couple of new words that we're looking at, and that's initial. So initial might be used instead of start. Medial might be used instead of middle, and final might be used instead of end. And we have those little examples which you would have seen on the video. First of all, the sound being in isolation, where it's just the sound, and we have the I for in isolation. We have the WIP, word initial position, or might be just referred to as word initial. We have the WMP, word medial position, or might just be WM, word medial. And we have the WFP, word final position, or might just be word final. So that should all be fairly logical. And what was important was just to point that out to you. And be on the lookout now for me using those terms. We need to just focus on one position at a time, because actually it can be quite hard to do a sound at the start as compared to the end, or at the end as compared to the start, because sometimes a consonant is made before the vowel and sometimes a consonant is made after the vowel. And actually it's a different set of skills and coordination and movement to do the different positions. Off, where the consonant comes after the vowel, is quite different to for, where the consonant comes before the vowel. And it has to do with the voicing for the vowel and where the tongue, teeth, and lips are before and after changing to the new phoneme. And we've been talking about our consonant clusters in the last 2 topics, and now we just want to have a word of caution. Consonant clusters occur in words when 2 consonant phonemes are said together with no vowel in between. So make sure if you're working on single phonemes that you don't choose consonant clusters, because it's going to be a different task, a different motor task for the client. If you're doing word initial position, then it's fine to choose for and fun and fire, but avoid frog and friend. On page 2, we're going to look at those concepts now of too easy, too hard, just right. Speech pathologists think this way. This is what we learn at university, and this is what we use when we are implementing our articulation programs. We do this because we need the child or the adult to be engaged. If someone comes in for a session, it's no good for us to go, oh, they don't want to do it today. Yeah, that's all right, off you go. The family might have driven, they've parked the car, they've organised babysitting for the other kids, they're there, they want to do the program. If the client goes, yeah, no, I don't want to do it today, and you go, oh, okay, well, everybody's just been inconvenienced. So as a speech pathologist, we have to be able to take the client in whatever mood they're in. We have to just take a few moments to get them in and settled, and then we need to get some effective therapy happening. The way we do this as speech pathologists is we make sure that we engage the client. How do we engage the client? Let's have a look at this bottom part of the page. We use the zones. We start easy to build trust and confidence, and we make sure we have fun. And most importantly, we stay in that easy zone for as long as is needed. Sometimes it really is just a few seconds. More often than not, it's 2 to 5 minutes, and it includes a first activity or game that's not really about the therapy. Sometimes we stay in the easy zone for a lot longer because we're getting feedback from the client that that's what they need. We move into the OK zone when the client is ready, and we do this by working at the client's pace. And we stay in that zone when we can see that the client is getting about 8 out of 10 correct or 9 out of 10 correct on the activities that we're giving them. That means we're checking how many they're getting correct, and we're going to look at how we do that in a few minutes. We watch out for signs that the tasks have become too hard. If the client's suddenly getting like 3 wrong or 4 wrong or 5 wrong for every 10, we know that soon we're going to start getting some of those avoidance behaviours. So when we see that, we need to go back a step and get that client into the green or OK zone. The other thing that speech pathologists do is we're on the lookout for the black zone. If we see the client has made their way into that very hard or impossible zone, we will stop straight away. We'll modify what we're doing straight away. We'll even take a break instantly if we need to. We never stay in the very hard or impossible zone, because we know the client's going to leave not having achieved anything, and the parent or caregiver, if they're in the session, they're possibly going to be quite stressed. So this course is going to teach you how to help clients work on their articulation skills. You might have seen a speech pathologist work on articulation skills with a client. If you have, I wonder if you noticed that they seem to have a plan. Sometimes a speech pathologist will walk in and have a written down plan, and you might see them going through the steps. If they don't have it written down, it'll be there, it'll just be in their head. The reason that we have a plan is because we've got to stay one step ahead. And that's what I want to teach you how to do in future topics. The way we're going to look at staying one step ahead is using these 3 strategies. First of all, we need to plan the activities that we do in the articulation program so that we can be monitoring how the client's going. We do this by thinking about activities or tasks having a certain number of attempts, and this works really well when it's 10 attempts. The second thing we're going to do is make sure we're monitoring the client, we're watching them, and we're ready to make quick changes. The third thing we're going to look at is how to use contingencies if the client simply doesn't like what we've brought. Maybe it's not too hard for them, but they're just not enjoying it. They're not motivated. Sometimes in life, we might go, oh, well, it's bad luck if you don't like it. But what I'd like to say to you is for an articulation program, why not have the attitude of, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to have fun. You're much more likely to be able to keep them in the okay zone if the client is motivated and enjoying it. So let's go through the next few pages now, and we're going to look at those 3 different strategies. A simple technique that speech pathologists use is to think of groups of 10 items, and that allows us to calculate our percentages quite easily. So let's have a look at example 1. We could ask a client to say 10 words containing a target sound. So we might say, could you say these words? And they all start with shh, for the SH sound. Shh. What we might notice is 5 of the words are pronounced correctly, but 5 of the words are pronounced incorrectly with a D. So instead of saying shoe, the client said do. We can see that actually only getting 5 out of 10 right means the client's in the hard zone. So we're not going to stay there. We need to make the task different. We need to change it and go back a step. In example 2, we're going to ask a client to say 10 words containing a target sound. And now 8 words will be pronounced correctly. So they're getting 80% right. 2 words are pronounced incorrectly, so they're getting 20% wrong. But when we check on this, we can see, well, they're in the okay zone. We've got them right where we want them. So this is a good task for this client, and we'll stay working at this same level. In example 3, we'll ask a client to say 10 words containing the target sound, and we'll see that they get them all right. They're actually getting 100% right. And we'll be like, this is easy. I wonder if they've mastered it. So we'll do it again because we want to check. So now we'll repeat those 10 words again. This time they got 1 error. They got 9 out of 10. We want to see, well, if they got 10 out of 10 and then they got 9 out of 10, if we put that together, overall, we could say they're getting 19 out of 20 or 95%. And you know what? Usually when that's the case, 19 right out of 20, we can move on. 10 out of 10, then 9 out of 10, or 9 out of 10, then 10 out of 10. That's pretty easy. They're going to feel pretty confident about that. And we'll move on to the next step because we want to keep the learning progressing and we want to get through our different speech goals. If we look at the bottom of page 3, here are some ideas for having cycles of 10 target sounds or 10 target words. So you could ask the client to name 10 pictures. You'd get 10 pictures ready and you'd be bringing them out one at a time. And then at the end, you could count how many they got right and how many they got wrong. You could have 10 different toys that include the target sound in the name of the toy. You might just have 5 items and you'll do each item twice. Do you get the idea? So have a look down and see what I've got there for some ideas. If you've got someone that likes to move, it could be the 10 actions, jumping from a hoop and saying a target sound, jumping to the next hoop and saying a target sound, and so on. You're probably getting this idea of, okay, I need to be ready to make it easier or harder. Another way to think of it is I need to be ready to move up and down the steps, because we don't want to make something harder. We just want to move to the level where it's still okay. Okay, so we think of it as moving up and down, and these steps are quite well defined in an articulation program. Sometimes when you're given a program from a speech pathologist, you might hear the word hierarchy. As we go on to topics 5 and further on, we'll start to use that idea of hierarchy, something coming before, something coming after. But let's have a look at this on page 4. And I've flipped the chart now. I've got black at the top and yellow at the bottom. This is a chart that you might like to print and have nearby. If you're going into a session with a client to help them with an articulation program, you might even have this printed and nearby to remind yourself. But soon this should become reasonably automatic, especially if you read through it and plan your session. So if you have 10 target words, let's say it's the TH sound, the voiceless at the start of words. So you've got think and thank and thongs and thought. You're going to ask your client to say those 10 words. And if they get none of them right, well, I imagine that the client's going to be sitting there going, okay, because what sort of feedback would you have given them? You can't have been going, great, excellent, good. You'll have to be going, okay, or good try, or try your tongue. The next step, if they got none right, is to go back 1 or even 2 steps, or you might have to change sounds. You might have to get on the phone to the speech pathologist and go, I've just tried to do those sounds and they can't even get one right. And there's some notes there to just talk about that. You might be looking for a new sound. You might be contacting the speech pathologist for an alternative, or you might go back to something else that you've already been working on that you know they can do. In the red, we've got 3 different sort of levels, and I'd suggest that you actually spend some time reading through this in detail. But you'll basically see that, you know, if they get 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, up to 6 out of 10, it's going to be too hard and you'll need to go back. 7 out of 10 is borderline. If you've got a really engaged client who's quite resilient, who's never kind of had a meltdown, who's very cooperative, you might persist at 7 out of 10. But if 7 out of 10, you know, they don't seem happy, they're complaining, they're going, oh, can I do something else? You know, it's okay to go, yeah, this really is hard, 7 out of 10. That's why you'll see it as red and as green. If they're getting 8 or 9 out of 10, you know, this is a comfortable level of achievement for most clients, so you're in the right place. But can you see that I've put in the notes if they're tired or unwell or having a bad day and they're getting 9 out of 10 and they get one wrong, they might just really lose the plot because it was just too much. Can you think of a time where that maybe happened for you? You were just holding it together and one thing went wrong. And normally you'd brush that off because you'd be able to go, oh, well, everything else is going right. But on that day, that one thing was the final straw. So this is what can happen sometimes when you're giving an articulation program. You might go, no, don't forget your tongue. And just that tiny little bit of feedback from you was it. No, I'm not doing it. If you're a parent, you'll know exactly what I mean. You might have tried really hard to just go, not quite, but no, they're out of there and you're not going to try and get them back. And then we can see our yellow, 10 out of 10, or one time 9 out of 10, then 10 out of 10. It's the easy zone and you probably can go forward. But just take some time to read through that and you'll see that if 10 items is too many, then you could do 5 items and there's a little scale at the bottom of what to do. So we're on page 5 now, and let's have a look in this shape here. Speech pathologists use alpha and beta symbols in place of ticks and crosses. So the alpha is kind of like the little A. I tend to just sort of do it like that. Alpha. And the beta is a bit like a capital B and comes through. That's it. Now, the reason we do those, and we could do it in just in some black, alpha, beta, is we don't want the client to be looking at what we're doing. If we're going cross, 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 how would you feel if that was your work? Do you think the crosses kind of, you know, make you a bit like, ah? We don't want the clients to disengage. The reason we use these symbols is because we want our responses to be neutral. I wonder if you've noticed the alpha and beta symbols before, maybe on a speech pathologist's sheet where they've been doing some assessment or some therapy. So we're going to have a look at the percentage of correct attempts in a list of 10. And it says, use the lists on page 6 to try the technique described below. So we want to be working with this child on speech sounds, and we're going to have a quick system here so we can show them 10 targets, we can record 10 responses as correct or incorrect using alpha and beta. And then at the end, we're going to work out the percentage that were correct so that we can determine where they sit in that easy, okay, hard chart or in the zones. And then we'll know what to do next. Will we stay on the level we're on? Will we go back a step or will we go to the next step? So the first thing we want to do is listen to the child's production of the sounds. And I'll play the audio for you to have a listen, and you can also go back into Moodle and play the audio yourself if you want to do this more slowly afterwards. If the production of the target sound is correct, you'll write the alpha symbol. And you're just going to ignore other speech errors. You're only going to focus on the target sound. So what do we mean by ignore other speech errors? If we're going to ignore other speech errors, we're going to only focus on the target sound. So if we are looking at the word fish and we're thinking about the f in word initial position, if the child says fis, we're going to mark it as correct. If they say bish, we're going to mark it as incorrect. If they say fit, we're still going to mark it as correct because we got the initial f. Let's look at number 2. If we hear an error in the child's speech attempt when it's the target sound, for example, if we wanted sh at the start of words, in word initial position, but the client said dirt, we're going to write the word showing the error, dirt. So we're just scribbling it down using our normal spelling and just changing, here we'd change the sh to the dirt. If we don't really have time or we're a bit unsure if we can get the whole word down, we can just write the dirt. We can also do this if the rest of the word's correct and the only error is on the first phoneme, we might just put the dirt. Or we could just write a beta symbol. So it's up to the particular situation as to whether you're going to write the whole word, just the sound that's the substitution, the phoneme that's the substitution, or whether we're just going to put a beta. Sometimes we'd do all three. Sometimes we'd write the word dirt, then we'd come back and write a dirt because we're just highlighting which was the phoneme that was the error, and then we might even put a beta at the end just to make it clear that that was one that was incorrect. At step 3, once we've heard all the items, we're going to go back and work out how many are correct and how many are incorrect. So obviously we can do that by adding up the alphas and giving a score out of 10 to work out the next step. So for example, if someone got 50% correct, we know we would need to go back to the previous step. So let's have a look at this example now. We've got sh, word initial position in 2 word phrases. That means we've asked the child to say 2 words. And can you see that the word with sh is actually the second word? So we've said to the child, can you say red shirt? And they've said red shirt, and they had the sh correct, so we've done an alpha. Orange shirt, and they've said orange shirt, and the shirt was right, so they've had an alpha. Green shirt, they might have even gone Dean shirt, but shirt was correct, so we've got an alpha. Now when we've got to black shirt, the client's forgotten. Perhaps they've got a bit distracted, they've stopped trying, they're thinking about something else. And now instead of saying black shirt, they've said black dirt, and we need to put a beta. White shirt, and they've gone white shirt, and they've inserted the d, we put a beta. Pink shirt, and they've said pink dirt, we've put a beta. We might say, can you remember, we're working on our sh sounds. We've given them a reminder. So for number 7, they say brown shirt. Oh, good. I liked your sh. We put the alpha. Purple shirt. Oh, well done. You got the sh and another alpha. But now they've got distracted again. Yellow dirt. A beta. Blue dirt. Another beta. So this client's getting 5 right and 5 wrong, and we can see we need to go back a step. What might it mean to go back a step? Well, we've been doing 2 word phrases. Maybe we need to go back to just 1 word. Maybe we just need to practice saying shirt. Can you see that that would be easier? Because they can really focus and be slow on that first part. Shirt, rather than saying another word, red shirt. Let's get our activities booklet, and we're going to have a look at these pages which relate to the topic 4 booklet. So 10 items, lists, documentation activity. The first one there is actually the example that we saw on the last page. The client is stopping to d. That means they've taken the long fricative sh and they've changed it to the plosive d. They've stopped the air with their teeth and their tongue d, instead of allowing it to flow out under friction. Shh. So it's called stopping. Let's have a look now at list 1, which is directly underneath here. We want the client to be saying ch, which we write as ch, ch, but they are changing it to a sh, which is a fricative. They've gone from the affricate ch to the fricative sh. We call that de-affrication because one part of the affricate is missing. De-affrication. The first word is match. We want to see what the client actually said. So I'm going to go and play the audio files and see if we can fill this in. Okay, so I've got Moodle open and we've got the topic 4 audio files. So let's have a listen to the first one.
List 1 on page 6 of the topic 4 booklet. Ch, word final position in single words, and the client is de-affricating to sh or de-affricating to t. One, mash, mash. 2, cash, cash. 3, itch, itch. 4, watch, watch. 5, wish, wish. 6, pat, pat. 7, rish, rish. 8, poot, poot. 9, coach, coach. 10, Porsche, Porsche.
So now let's play that audio file again. And this time I'll be filling in the sheet as we go and you can see how I do it and then we'll discuss it at the end. So I'm going to play list 1 again. And as it's playing, I'm going to be filling in the sheet and you can watch how I do it. If you would like to also be filling in as we go, you can.
1, mash, mash. 2, cash, cash. 3, itch, itch. 4, watch, watch. 5, wish, wish. 6, pat, pat. 7, rish, rish. 8, poot, poot. 9, coach, coach. 10, Porsche, Porsche.
So we've gone through the list and when it wasn't said correctly, I have written the whole word down and just shown the error there. And when it was said correctly, I've just gone straight to the result and put the alpha because we know it was said as itch if we're saying it was said correctly. So now let's go through and look at the result. So match went to mash. We can see the ch went to sh. And that's therefore a beta. Okay. Cash is the same, isn't it? Ch went to sh, beta. Which went to wish, beta. Patch went to pat. Now we've got ch. went to t. Pat, the beta. Rich went to rish. There's the ch going to sh. Beta. Poot. Pooch went to poot. So that's the t again. Beta. Coach was said correctly. Porch went to Porsche. So there's the sh. Beta. And we're going to add up how many were said correctly. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to circle those so you can see for sure what I'm doing. This one's correct, correct, correct. So our result is 3 out of 10, and therefore our next step is to go back a step. If we're going to go back a step, at the moment we've got ch in word final position. So what would be a step that we could go back to? We might go back to just saying ch on its own, or saying ch in nonsense syllables. So for example, we might be saying something like arch, ooch, or just ch, and that might be an easier step. Get the idea? How did you go with that? Did you find you could hear the errors straight away? If you could, fantastic. If not, why not go back and play the audio file again and tune your ear in? So now let's have a go at the top here, which is list 2. It's word initial position in 2 word phrases. And the client is backing to s. So instead of saying front position, they're saying s. So they've moved backwards in the mouth because s is a middle position. F is a fricative and s is a fricative. So they've still got the right manner, and f is voiceless and s is voiceless. So they've got the voicing right. What have they got wrong? The place. Instead of being at the front, it's in the middle. And that's why we call it backing, because they're a bit too far back in the mouth, but they've got every other part right. I'm going to play the audio file, and you can be filling this in as we go.
List 2 on page 6 of the Topic 4 booklet. F, word initial position in 2 word phrases, and the client is backing to s. 1. 4 ducks. 4 ducks. 2. 4 dogs. 4 dogs. 3. 4 cats. 4 cats. 4. Saw mice. Saw mice. 5. 4 cows. 4 cows. 6. 4 sheep. 4 sheep. 7. Saw pigs. Saw pigs. 8. 4 hens. 4 hens. 9. 4 lambs. 4 lambs. 10. 4 horses. 4 horses.
All right. I wonder how you went with that. Did you think most of them were right? I wonder if you would like to now add up how many were right and work out the percentage. And then do you think you would stay on that step, or would you go back, or would you move on to the next step? Why don't you pause the video to analyse what you've done for the list 2, and when you're ready, press play, and I'm going to go through it again and you can see if we agree.
List 2 on page 6 of the topic 4 booklet. Word initial position in 2 word phrases, and the client is backing to 1. 4 ducks. 4 ducks.
That's correct.
2. 4 dogs. 4 dogs.
Also correct.
3. 4 cats. 4 cats.
Correct.
4. Saw mice. Saw
I can hear
mice.
saw.
5. 4 cows. 4 cows.
Correct.
6. 4 sheep. 4 sheep.
Correct.
7. Saw pigs. Saw
I can hear
pigs.
saw.
8. 4 hens. 4 hens.
Correct.
9. 4 lambs. 4 lambs.
Correct.
10. 4 horses. 4 horses.
Correct. So we have 8 out of 10 correct, which is 80%. And next would be stay on this level. I wonder if that's what you put. So I'm going to press list 3 now. It's going to be in CV syllables, and the client is lisping. Do you remember lisping is where they've replaced s with a sound that's further forward in the mouth with the tongue protruding. And this can be written as a TH.
List 3 on page 6 of the topic 4 booklet. In CV syllables, and the client is lisping. So the client is making a sound like the TH, voiceless. 1. Sa. Sa. 2. Sue. Sue. 3. Fee. Fee. 4. Fur. Fur. 5. Saw. Saw. 6. Soy. Soy. 7. Sare. Sare. 8. Fay. Fay. 9. Seer. Seer. 10. Though. Though.
All right, I'm going to play it straight away again, and I'm going to do the answers this time. The first time I'm going to do it by just putting a TH, just the letters TH, and then I'm going to do it one more time and I'll use the theta symbol.
List 3 on page 6 of the topic 4 booklet. In CV syllables, and the client is lisping. So the client is making a sound like the TH, voiceless. 1. sa, sa. 2, su, su. 3, fee, fee. 4, fur, fur. 5, saw, saw. 6, soy, soy. 7, sare, sare. 8, fay, fay. 9, seer, seer. 10, foe, foe.
So I only had to write the TH because the vowel was correct each time. And when it was a lisp, we know that it's going to be the voiceless f each time because that's what a lisp is. I'm going to do it one more time and I'll use the theta symbol. You can have another go doing it yourself if you like.
1, sa, sa. 2, su, su. 3, fee, fee. 4, fur, fur. 5, saw, saw. 6, soy, soy. 7, sare, sare. 8, fay, fay. 9, seer, seer. 10, foe, foe.
Okay, how did you go with that? So we've got a 6 out of 10, 60%, and we need to go back a step. If you're wondering what going back a step would be, I would say it would be to practicing in isolation. In isolation would be the next step. So it's good, isn't it, to get to the point now where you're thinking about the phonemes, you're confident in writing, and now you're even listening and making lists and being able to decide if the activity is at the right level for the client that you're working with. You're delivering that articulation program and you're working out if you've got them in the easy zone, in the okay zone, or in the hard zone. And you've got a little sheet there that you can be using. And so you're really getting lots of great skills ready to be working towards delivering an articulation program. Page 7 is a record sheet for us to look at, and actually the supplementary item for topic 4 is going to be 3 different types of record sheets. 1 per page, 2 per page, or 4 per page. And here we have 1 per page, and this might be if you're wanting to have plenty of room to write. Perhaps the target is a short phrase and you're wanting to have plenty of room to write that. So just giving you the heads up to look in the supplementary items for the record forms. On page 8, we're first going to start looking at contingencies. So what is a contingency? It's like a plan B. You start with plan A, you go in with an expectation of what you're going to work on with the client, and you know that you might need something up your sleeve if things don't go to plan. So let's just, I suggest you have a read through this page and have a look at how you might start with your plan A and then how you might have your plan B ready. And plan B is about being ready to change horses midstream. Sometimes we don't want to change. We're like, oh, but I like the activity I planned, or the teacher said I'm supposed to work on this. We need to be ready to go, you know what? We want to keep the client engaged. It's not about finishing the activity that I set out to do or working on something because I was told to do it. I've actually got to go, this is too hard and I need to make a change. Can we see there when the child unexpectedly slips into the hard zone, or even worse, the impossible zone, you'll need to have your contingencies ready so you know what to do. In topic 7, we will do a lot more on contingencies and we'll actually learn how to write a contingency plan. So for now, we're just having our first look at what contingencies are. And you can see there it says important. Have adequate contingencies ready in order to move up and down the steps whilst keeping the client happy and willing to engage. So as we go over to page 9, you'll see that we need to plan. Contingency means having a plan A, and then having a plan B, and then maybe even having a plan C. And we need plans for all these different aspects of the articulation program. We need a plan for building rapport at the start of the session. We need a plan for how we will repair the rapport if the child gets upset or discouraged for any reason. We need a plan for how we will reinforce correct productions of speech sounds. So what we'll do when they get it right. We need a plan for how we will reward target behaviours. So for example, a client might be working on a particular speech sound, but perhaps you're also working on their willingness to sit at the table or to look at your face or to have a try rather than giving up, or even to stay in the room if they normally run out of the room. And we need a plan for how we will end the session with a reward so that we can tell the child what they can look forward to doing at the end. So think about those 5 different areas. No wonder we need a plan, because that would be a lot to remember, wouldn't it? We need to plan contingencies for the client who might need things to be easier or harder or modified altogether. And remember, when we say easier or harder, what we're referring to is moving up or down the steps in the program. So you might like to have a read through on this page here about things you might put in your plan. So for example, you might have your goal written down. So it might be that the client will pronounce the sh sound in word initial position in 1-syllable words. And then you might have to plan what you'll do if working on sh in word initial position in 1-syllable words is too hard. So the range of activities that could be an earlier step could be to drop back to just work on auditory bombardment. And that's something that we're going to learn more about. It's where they just get to listen to you saying sh in word initial position. Or you might drop back to working on sh in a CV syllable, like shoe, she, and nonsense ones, shay. You might drop back to working on sh just in isolation. So instead of the child having to say sh word initial position like shoe and shop, now they're just going to have to say shh. So that's an earlier step, isn't it? In your plan, you need to have activities that will enable you to progress to a range of harder steps or how to move on. What if they just get 10 out of 10 on the sh word initial position in 1-syllable words? So you might go on to work with 2-syllable words, shower, shopping, or you might go on to work with 2-word phrases, big shoe, red shoe, my shoe, or show me, show her. And then finally, you might need to plan if the level is right. So you're going to stay on sh word initial position in 1-syllable words, but the client doesn't like the game. Maybe you picked a game about shoes and they're like, oh, this is boring. I don't want to do shoes. And you might be, okay, let's do sheep. So you might have a backup plan of something you'll do with sheep or something you'll do with a ship. And let's say you'd chosen to push cars around a track and the child doesn't seem to really like that. Well, maybe now you could make the cars fly up in the air and land on an invisible planet. So that's an example of using your imagination, isn't it? Why don't we make the cars fly instead of drive? Or let's pretend they're helicopters, because you just told me you like helicopters. So we're ready to be flexible. And this is what's really important. And that is our main goal is to keep the client happy and trusting you, having a positive experience so they'll want to come back again and so they feel good about themselves. And we can see that the client who feels good about themselves might say things like, I love this game and I'm so good at it. So we're trying to make everything go towards the happy client. All right, we've made our way all the way through the topic 4 booklet. The last page has the answers to those 3 word lists that we did. And I hope that you've started to really think about, wow, all of the things I've been learning are all coming together now. And I can start to think about how an articulation program might look in terms of going up and down steps. And you're just first thinking about contingencies, and perhaps you can have a bit of a read about it too. So thanks for joining me for the topic 4 tutorial, and time now to go and look at your supplementary items, mark your worksheet and do the topic 4 quiz. See you in topic 5.